You've just entered the Extra Zone Arcade. Fans of racing games have been feasting for the past year. We've had a ton of cool races released, but now it's time to pit the best of the best against each other to see which is the definitive racing experience. We got the big three, consisting of Mario Kart World, Sonic Racing Crossworlds, and Kirby Air Riders. But how are we going to decide which one is the best? Well, this video will go over 5 major components, and some subcategories, as to what makes the best racing game. And each game will be ranked from 1 to 3 points on how well those aspects are executed, with the games being given a ranking from 1st to 3rd based on accumulated points. The first of 5 major components is gameplay. Since this is the most important category, there will be 5 points up for grabs for the game that performs the best in each subsection. Gameplay section will include controls and mechanics, track design, and polish. The second major category is visuals, which comes down to graphics, art style, animation, and presentation. The third category is audio, which encompasses sound design and music. Category 4 is content, a more broad one looking at which game hosts the most and/or best modes, features, customization, and progression system. Lastly is the online category, which obviously covers online play features as well as updates and DLC. We're looking at a prize pool of 96 points in total. So, with all that in mind, let's put these games head to head to see which one crosses the finish line in first place. Starting with gameplay, let's take a look at the general controls of each game. Of course, things like vehicles and characters can change up the game feel quite a bit in each of these, but we're just looking at it purely in terms of your racing moveset. Mario Kart is pretty much a universal language in terms of controls at this point. You hold A to drive, R to drift, L to use items, and B to brake if needed. Pretty much as simple as it gets. World does add some new mechanics in the rail grinding and wall riding, which you can use to take some pretty crazy shortcuts. It will take a lot of trial and error to get it right though, which I do think takes away from Mario Kart's simplicity. You can choose to play traditionally, and those mechanics are practically at their best here. Your car feels weighty when drifting, light when gliding, and flowy on water. It's responsive and fluid. But next to the other 2 games, and even previous Mario Karts, it comes up a little slow. The game also features 24-player races, which are fun and chaotic, but more often than not come down to bagging competitions. It's almost a necessary evil here, and front running is not recommended. That combined with the slower speed can make the gameplay less exciting and engaging than the other 2, so it gets the 1 point award in this category. Kirby Air Riders is the most recent, so out of all the games I have the least experience with it. But it's gotta be said that this game's racing design is not only unique, but incredibly satisfying. It's definitely the most different experience we'll be talking about, being much more offense focused. It's pretty deceivingly complex despite essentially being a one-button game. You drive forward automatically, only being able to turn and spin attack with the control stick, and boost/drift with pretty much any button you like. Execution is key here. A flawless race will require you to get a hold of these pretty wild and loose controls, while also engaging with the enemies on the track. Basic enemies can be inhaled and shot back out to damage other enemies, giving you a boost. But there are unique guys that will give you a copy ability, something carried over from the main Kirby series. These are pretty much your items, and they all work on a timer, allowing you a short window to attack or catch up with your opponents. A lot of these are great for helping to maintain your lead as well, so front running is a viable option. Beyond the depth of the copy abilities, even stuff like the flight and drifting mechanics have advanced techniques which will definitely make a newbie's head spin. Low barrier of entry but high skill ceiling. That's the name of the game here, but it does make this title just a little less accessible than its competitors, which have more luck-based elements that can give less skilled players an advantage. This game also has the fastest pace, so getting used to all the chaos might take a while, but once it does, it really clicks, earning it 2 points on the board. I've already talked about Crossworlds pretty extensively thanks to my review, which you should absolutely check out, but I think my points made there can apply here. Its gameplay, just from a pure traditional racing game standpoint, is some of the best out there. The game is incredibly tight and responsive, almost the perfect middle ground between the buttery smooth handling of World and the snappiness of Air Riders. Drifting is at the absolute forefront of the gameplay loop, like if you're not spending 70% of the race drifting, you're doing it wrong. The gadget system is also a whole massively deep mechanic that you could talk about for hours, but it allows you to really customize and tune your gameplay to exactly your liking. As a drift merchant, I keep those gadgets on me. This also factors into the customization aspect, which we'll get more into later. Anyway, this game is phenomenal in terms of gameplay and mechanics, up there with the likes of Mario Kart 8, 5 points. Next up is tracks, and spoilers, the point distribution will be the same as last round. Mario Kart World earns 1 point, having some really fantastically designed tracks in its selection of 30, but lacking in variety. Because everything geographically had to make sense, we end up with quite a few tracks with similar theming and aesthetics. The actual track layouts do still deliver on that fundamental Mario Kart goodness. when you aren't playing one of the hundreds of intermission tracks that range from kinda fun to a literal straight line where nothing happens. Granted, there are ways to avoid playing them, but I think it's a failing on the part of the game design when players are actively trying to avoid them, to the point of making entire Discord servers just to play online without them. More on that later. Air Riders had a comparatively small track selection, but if the last game we talked about is proof of anything, it's that quality always beats quantity. This set of 18 courses are all linear racing goodness, with plenty of obstacles, enemies, twists and turns to navigate. These tracks are also very dynamic, with shifting landscapes and elements of environments being worked into the racing itself. Of the three, this game definitely has the tightest track selection between its new and returning courses, but races do go by pretty quick. As in, all tracks are completable on standard rules in under 2 minutes each. The replay value of them does help this, so it earns 2 points. Crossworlds has the most standard racing tracks of the three, including the titular Crossworlds themselves, which are practically full-on tracks of their own. With over 40 tracks to choose from as of this video's release, this game boasts the most variety by far, representing tracks from previous Sonic Racing and mainline titles, plenty of original locations, and of course, the crossover tracks. This game really has it all, and the tracks themselves are large and winding with tons of alternate routes. Tracks change dynamically, with you often having to take control of your vehicle in flight or in boat mode, and even sometimes they completely change the aesthetic on lap 3. And these are broken up by the Crossworlds, which will take you to a completely different and random track for the second lap, ensuring no two races are the same. This one's a no-brainer, 5 points to Crossworlds. But that game has had its time in the sun, because next is Polished, where it's a pretty distant third place. I mean, look, it's up against 2 first-party Nintendo games, it was never gonna fare well. That said, Crossworlds is a solid experience with minimal bugs, but it just lacks that extra secret sauce Nintendo has, 1 point. Mario Kart World is surprisingly not as solid as Kirby. Although it's pretty much bug-free, I've had a few instances of the physics freaking out from time to time. Not to mention the game only runs at 30 FPS if playing with 3 or more players locally. That alone is enough to keep it in second place with 2 points to its name. Kirby has no issues whatsoever, despite the chaotic-ass gameplay, 5 points. That ends the gameplay section. So far, Sonic is leading the charge with 11 points, Kirby not too far behind with 9, and Mario barely scraping by with 4 points. Can he bring it back in the next set? The next sections shouldn't be as analytical as gameplay, as they aren't as important, and like I said earlier, are also worth the standard 1 to 3 points. Starting with visuals, let's look at the graphics of each game. This is purely the quality and visual fidelity of each game, and in that respect, Mario Kart World comes up short again. It's no slouch by any means, and shows out the gate the leap in quality from Switch 1 to Switch 2, but it just isn't as strong. The game was originally planned for the OG, so some remnants like lower quality texture work in some areas can be seen, especially if you're running the game in 4K. The game is still pretty, but it suffers from having that last gen mindset, 1 point. Kirby Air Riders had many moments where I was floored by the quality of the graphics. It's nothing short of stunning, and looks incredible with its vibrant colors in 4K HDR. But it's held back pretty hard by one thing. The 9 returning GameCube tracks look like they were pulled straight out of the game and given a slight facelift. It can look pretty jarring next to the incredibly high quality character models and new courses that are far above Mario Kart's output. That inconsistency earns it 2 points. Crossworlds kinda cheated this category. I mean, it's literally running on Unreal Engine 5, extremely well optimized at that. The only thing really holding it back is a handful of areas that have some lower quality textures and a couple of characters not looking as smooth. But these are barely noticeable, and the lighting, reflections and visual sharpness exceeds the other games by a lot. 3 points. But the game's variety is its biggest weakness, due to the varied styles of the tracks leading to a somewhat incoherent art style. That earns it 1 point in this category. Its visual identity just isn't nearly as strong or consistent as the other 2 games. Air Riders is as quintessentially Kirby as it gets when it comes to its art style. No matter how different some of the tracks can be in setting, it's all tied together with that vibrant and eye-catching style. It's not reinventing the wheel, but it sure is one of the best realizations of the pink puffball's colourful world we've seen to date. That's a serving of 2 points. Mario Kart World style just makes me so happy, man. Everything just has this bounciness to it with this art style, be it the characters, vehicles, and even some of the environments. There's this almost soft, friendly atmosphere to the game that's very reminiscent of Mario's early 3D era, especially in the character model department. It felt like with each new Mario Kart, especially 8, they leaned more into realism, so they pretty much took the opposite approach this time and made the game more cartoony. There's just so much appeal and liveliness to it that I had to award this game the highest honor of 3 points for best art style. Looks like the streak continues, as this game also has the best animation quality of the 3. Complementing the more toon-like style is the very expressive animation. Once again, look back at Mario Kart 8, which seems pretty stiff and lifeless in comparison. The characters squash and stretch, the karts squash and stretch, the expressions are detailed and full of personality. This game just has all the sauce visually, even if the graphics don't reach the Switch 2's full potential. In some ways, its visual identity means much more than just looking the prettiest. 3 points. Kirby Air Riders' animation is just impressive. The fact they're able to make this crazy fast game look tangible is a feat all on its own, even if sometimes it can get kinda goofy. Pretty much the same things from Mario Kart World apply here, just to a slightly lesser extent. Great use of squash and stretch and expressive characters, but a little less easing and follow through that really gave Mario Kart's motion its weight. A solid 2-star performance. Sonic Racing Crossworlds animation isn't bad by any means. Sonic has always been presented in a more shonen-y way compared to Mario and Kirby's more western animation influence, so you don't get the same kind of bounciness here. It's all very snappy, which fits Sonic but can leave some of the actions feeling a little weightless and hard to read. But none of that applies to Vector, who clearly had the highest animation budget. Someone on the team really loves this guy. 1 point. Crossworlds continues to fall from grace in the presentation category, but once again, not because it's bad in any way, just the other two games mog in this category. This is another instance of Nintendo just having some secret sauce, but Crossworlds' presentation overall is nice. Even some of the best in the Sonic series as a whole. Still only enough for 1 point. Mario Kart World's presentation is a big step up over past titles, having this really unique, almost Hot Wheels-y kind of edge. Yes, I just made up a whole new adjective for this. Really gives the feel of a grand race around the world. Sure, menus do mostly consist of sliding PNGs, but they pull it off in a way that doesn't feel cheap. 2 points. And moving on to the sauciest game of the three, Kirby Air Riders. I mean, what did you expect? Think Smash Ultimate, but even more refined and with that signature Kirby flair. Look at the main menu of this game and tell me this isn't a top 3 menu of all time. I am dead freaking serious. This is peak. Just the way everything's laid out on a table with each icon being a tangible object, the animations, even the font choices, all perfectly executed. If you put similar aspects of each game's UI together and flip through it, this game would have my attention 9 times out of 10. Easy 3 points for Kirby. Now let's look at, or listen to, the audio category, starting with the game that has the best sound design, and this has got to be a solid 3 points for Sonic Racing off the bat. Sonic sound effects have always been top tier. It's actually a really underrated and overlooked part of the 35-year-long franchise. Crossworlds is no different. Whether it's hitting a boost pad, choosing a crossworld, or the various fun lines of dialogue, you're going to be hit with a lot of sounds. But none of them get grading whatsoever. Well, maybe aside from the sound of an item coming to hit you, but I think that's more of a trauma response. But let's not sleep on Mario Kart either, another series well known for its sound design. This time it's been much more cartoonified, to keep in line with the game's visual and presentation style. This kind of leads more into the music aspect, which is also very strong in this game. But when playing Knockout Tour and transitioning to the next area, you get a little prelude track. It's things like that that really elevate a game's sound design. But Crossworlds also does something similar on top of all the other great sounds, so this game only gets 2 points. I'll admit, I'm only giving Kirby 1 point because I haven't really sat down and listened out for the game's audio. What is there is good, but it didn't jump out to me so much compared to the other 2 games. And it doesn't do much better with regards to the music. Once again, it's not bad, but some of the more notable tracks for me were ripped from prior games, and the new stuff didn't stick out all too much. Aside from the menu theme, which just slaps a little too hard. Anyway, a single point. Rather surprisingly, Sonic doesn't win the music category, but it's not for lack of bangers. Far from it. Kronos Island, Wonder Museum, Pumpkin Mansion, Eggman Expo, just excellent tracks, both to drive on and listen to. But there are some weak links here that don't stand out all too much or just sound kinda lower quality. Water Palace being one that doesn't inspire too much, but still a solid selection. This category was destined to be a Mario Kart World sweep. I mean, this soundtrack is something truly impressive. I still haven't even listened to all of it. 300 plus is a lot, and that alone would be enough for me to give it its flowers, but it's all high quality out of what I've listened to. And the amount of high profile composers they had on this is basically cheating. The fact that this wasn't even nominated for soundtrack at the Game Awards is nothing short of a crime that I'm here to correct. 3 points easily. So that's it for audio, but just how much stuff is there to do in each game? In terms of modes, Mario Kart World is fine enough. There are 5 different modes to choose from: Grand Prix, Versus Race, Knockout Tour, Battle Mode, and Free Roam. The main selling point of the game. The open world of this game is pretty boring. You can experience most of what it has to offer in maybe 2 hours, and this bleeds into some of the other modes, mainly in Grand Prix. It feels like you're driving more on the intermission tracks rather than the regular ones. So like in Free Roam, I don't come back to this mode. Like, ever. Versus races are just as fun as ever, and would be my go-to if it weren't for Knockout Tour. This mode is just awesome. Although you do end up racing on intermissions a lot here too, the immediate competition of it makes it way more engaging than the standard racing. Battle mode has been completely neutered. Third worst in the entire series behind Wii U Mario Kart 8 and Super Mario Kart. Only Balloon Battle and Coin Runners, who the fuck actually gives a shit about Coin Runners, are available. And the arenas are way too big. Overall, the game has a good selection of modes, but is held back by the game's main gimmick. 1 point. Crossworlds only has 2 main modes outside of online, which would make you think it would rank the lowest, but this is an example of quality over quantity once again. The depth in both the Grand Prix and Race Park are awesome. Grand Prix has you face rivals, a system that ensures your experience will be different each time. These rivals have selectable levels of difficulty, or you can just turn them off entirely. You even have collectible red star rings, which encourage you to learn more about the tracks you're driving on. Race Park is where the real fun is though. You can face rival teams for rewards here, or play different game modes with friends. Regular versus races, extreme items, team races with fully customizable rule sets. There's a lot of potential here for some crazy ass races. So with just how much you can tune things to your liking, I had to give it the edge over Mario Kart for 2 points. Kirby Air Riders straight up has some of the best content in any racing game. You have standard races, top ride, city trial, and road trip, the latter being a story mode with a whole bunch of unique challenges. It's a good 3 hours long for a single run and is very replayable. Also, I heard Kirby lore gets crazy, but this particular cutscene took me out, man. I was not expecting it. What the fuck are these Metroid ass enemies, bro? Look at this. Bro, goddamn, dude, shit. Why the fuck did they do that? Why the fuck did Nova do this? They tore his fucking heart out. Look at this shit. Okay, bro, which they took bro apart and turned him into a fucking super weapon? What is going on? Top Ride is definitely the weakest mode. Not bad at all, but by far the one I've played the least. You can have fun with it though. Regular races are also some good chaotic fun with a very solid, albeit small selection of tracks. But City Trial is the mode that carries here. This off-the-wall 5-minute mode has you face off against your rivals, collecting power-ups to upgrade your vehicle. It all culminates in a final minigame to determine the winner. This mode has quickly become a favourite whenever I play with friends and family, and next to Road Trip is the reason why this game earns 3 points in the game modes aspect. But it doesn't stop there, because outside of the main modes, Kirby Air Riders has a ton of unique and fun features, the standout to me being the gummies. These little collectibles do absolutely nothing. You can play around with them and observe them, and I just think it's really charming. Completely unnecessary, but charming. There's also the challenge board, which will look real familiar to any Smash Bros veterans out there. This edition encourages even more replay value in this already highly replayable game, and you unlock cool rewards like hats, characters, and skins. You can also buy some of these using their in-game shop, check your racing stats, listen to music, and save replays to watch later. No shortage of fun stuff to delve into here. 3 points. Crossworlds has a good selection of additional features, but not on the level of Air Riders. Like that game, there are challenges you can complete that'll get you to experiment with and learn more of the content here. We also have a jukebox, where you can set playlists for while you race, containing all the songs from the game and some extra. There's also the friendships menu, which I personally haven't messed around with yet, still trying to grind tickets for all the horns and auras. In here, you can spend tickets on your favourite characters to earn rewards based around them. Just another incentive to keep you playing and get those tickets up. 2 points. Mario Kart World has stickers. That's it. No stats, no music player, nothing. You can choose one to display next to your name and you can barely see them. Easiest 1 point of my life. I have half a mind to give it 0, they really didn't even try. They also scrapped customizable carts this time around, so all the customization you get is just what character skin you want to use. These are cool, and I like the idea of unlocking them with the food items, but it's not enough to get this game out of 1 point hell. Kirby's customization is pretty damn awesome. You can deck out your rides in different colors, patterns, decals, and even trails. What's even cooler is you can share and download creations with the world. And people make some pretty sweet designs. Don't forget about the aforementioned character skins and hats, which also allow you to stand out even more amongst the other riders. We also have a ton of settings to tweak the game exactly to your taste, so there's something truly here for everyone. But it doesn't beat Crossworlds in terms of sheer depth of customization, so it's 2 points. Speaking of which, obviously this game was going to take the cake. Fully customizable vehicles with tons of different parts and literally hundreds of possible combinations, including decals, horns, auras, and fully custom color palettes, the gadget system that'll make your ride unique to your style, and even a handful of racer skins. They should have called this game Sonic Racing Have It Your Way, because truly this is the Subway of racing games. Brother, you made the sandwich, now go enjoy it. 3 points by far. Another relatively easy win goes to Kirby Air Riders for its progression system. Like I said a minute ago, there's the challenge board, which is vast and full of unlockables, earning it a nice 3 points. In a similar vein, I mentioned Crossworlds challenges, but the more you race, the more you'll upgrade your gadget plate. Even once you're fully licensed, you can still unlock gadgets just by playing, and the additional things you can earn from the friendships menu also contribute. It's just not as enticing as Kirby's challenge board, so it gets 2 points. Mario Kart's progression system is there at least? You unlock vehicles the more coins you collect like in prior games, and certain characters by beating GPs. Then there's the random characters you unlock with Kamek, which just completely sucks ass. Not only does it depend on you getting the item used on you, but also where in the world you are. Now, there are ways to exploit this to get the characters faster, as well as the UFO method in free roam. But again, it's just too many random factors to unlock characters that are essentially roster padding, even if I do like these guys being in the game. 1 point. That leaves us with the final category in online. We're going to do the last 3 aspects in bulk, because let's be honest, Sonic Racing Crossworlds sweeps the entire category. Yes, I have had more disconnects playing this game online compared to the other 2, but the features here can't be denied. Regular races are great fun where you can rank up and unlock rewards, but there's also the Legend competition for higher ranked players and the occasional festival. Festivals do take over the main racing mode while active, and some people don't like that, but honestly, I mostly play online for these, so no problem here. You can also easily make friend lobbies with completely customizable rule sets like in Race Park mode. This game has also been receiving consistent updates to improve balancing and even adding new rewards and gadgets. Not to mention the free Season Pass bringing iconic Sega characters into the fold, with the paid DLC pass being our gateway into some more wild crossovers. 3 points for online play features and 3 points for updates and DLC. Clean sweep for Crossworlds, and now it has its final point total, which will be revealed at the end. Next up is Air Riders, which I'm awarding 2 points for online play and 1 point for updates. The latter is because the game has only received patches since release, and Sakurai has gone on record saying there will be no additional content.
So that was a fucking lie.
What's there on release is what you get, and I respect that. If I'm not getting updates like Crossworlds, I appreciate the peace of mind knowing the game has been released as intended, infinitely more than no communication on the matter. Mario Kart World. The actual online itself has all the main modes available, aside from Road Trip of course. Unfortunately, it's pretty hard to find full rooms 2 months after release, but I have a great time facing off with folks in City Trial particularly. This mode is just excellent no matter what setting you play in. I could never find a room for Top Ride whatsoever, nobody plays that mode. But having options is nice, and is what earns this game its final 2 points. Mario Kart World does receive semi-frequent updates, some of which have improved the game in big ways, but also set it back in others. I seriously can't tell if they're listening to feedback or doubling down on the things people didn't like, but they are working on stuff, so I'll give it 2 points there. The actual online though, yeah, it's a no from me. Forced intermissions on versus races just sucks. You should always have the option to turn them off if it's your preference, and I think they know people aren't super into them. And yes, I'm aware of the Discord servers out there that host lobbies where you can do your standard 3-lap tracks as mentioned before, but I shouldn't have to rely on something like that to have fun playing with randoms. Doubly so as an early Switch 2 adopter, I don't have people in my circle to play with in private lobbies either. At the very least, Knockout Tour is still a ton of fun, and you can play battle mode, I guess. I mean, no one's really doing that, but you sure can try. And that's going to be the final point I give out. So, is everyone ready to see the final tally? We're finally going to put to rest this debate which pretty much defined 2025 for me and a lot of others. Without further ado, the results. So, finishing the race in a distant third place with 25 points is Mario Kart World. I think we all saw this coming. While the game is fun, looks pretty, animates well, and has fantastic music, there are some strange gameplay decisions and a lack of substantial content that hold it back drastically. I think the hate the game gets is overblown, but I really do get where people are coming from, especially as a longtime fan of the series. Coming off the back of Mario Kart 8 Deluxe no less, I understand and feel to an extent the disappointment surrounding this entry. It's experimental, but didn't fully stick the landing. After a surprisingly close matchup, Kirby Air Riders drifts into second place with 34 points. And surprisingly is really the key word here, because I didn't expect to have nearly the amount of fun with this game as I have. Despite a 22-year difference from the original Air Ride on GameCube, it feels pretty much like a game from that era with a modern coat of paint. And I mean that in the most flattering way possible. The crazy fast pace, frantic competition, and great visuals makes one of the most unique racing games I've ever played. Even if it is a bit of a stretch to call it a kart racer, I still absolutely believe it should be part of the discussion, even if it's not as traditional as its competitors. It's also proof you don't need an ambitious concept to make a splash in today's world. Sometimes a game that's just really damn fun is all we can ask for. Well, that leaves us with the winner of this little competition, Sonic Racing Crossworlds. I'd like to say now that this script went through many revisions. Part of the reason it took so long is because I restarted this script like 3 times, and it was to ensure I was being as impartial as possible. So this was done with the least amount of bias possible, thinking about what objectively makes the best racer. Crossworlds just checks more of the boxes I think we're all looking for with the genre. Honestly, I would say more on it, but like I already plugged earlier, I got a whole video on it that explains it well enough. No way I wasn't going to get that last plug in there. And that settles it. The greatest debate of the past year has been concluded. Really appreciate you all for watching to the end. Doubly appreciative of you guys who have been waiting over 2 months for me to upload. Sorry about that. From here on out, your regularly scheduled programming will continue. New videos every other week. Gonna be a big focus on Sonic this year for his 35th, but don't expect it to just be reviews like with Mario last year. It's gonna be some variety as we celebrate the history of the world's most famous hedgehog. So expect the next video to be pretty different than what we usually do. Hope you're looking forward to seeing that, and if you are, and you haven't done so already, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss any of it. Leave a like on the way out, and maybe drop a comment telling me what your favourite game is of the 3, maybe even a ranking if you're feeling bold. Check out the live channel and or Twitch to catch our weekday live streams if you just can't get enough of hearing me yap, and I'll see you in the next one. We out.